All right, welcome in. It is Wednesday morning. It's time for Total Bases. I was joking with Brian backstage. I had a fine day yesterday. I didn't bet anything, so it's 0-0. Couldn't lose. If you don't make a play, I actually had one that I was loading up in AAA, and it got rained out along with about it was quite a bit of rain. Two major league games yesterday got rained out, like 3 or 4 AAA games. So it ended up being no action for me. But I did avoid a couple losers. So that might be, listen, we're just looking for anything positive at this point. If you do this long enough, and Brian's nodding his head because we just had this conversation up there, if you do this long enough and you can dodge a loss or two like that's going to be how you win long term. It's about minimizing the downside, the down runs, and maximizing when you're hot. Hopefully, we've got a hot run around the corner. Bryan Leonard, I know we've both been battling it right now, so what do you say we turn things around today?
That would be nice. And it's not just us. There's a lot of guys on Twitter that I follow that I respect, and they're all complaining right now. They go, what the hell's going on? I was having a really good baseball season, and in the last week, there's been struggles. So if anybody in the comments is doing well, when you get into the YouTube, if you can get into the YouTube comments and let us know after the show's over, let us know what's working for you, because neither one of us are doing well right now, and maybe something will pop in our heads, and you never know. We're here to share, we're here to win, and we appreciate it.
It's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I had a very good first couple weeks. So yeah, it's kind of, for me, it's been like the last 2 weeks or so that have just not been very good in Major League Baseball. But I guess what you could do is just bet the Yankees every time they play. That might be a way to cash a few tickets. They that'll be our feature game today. We talked about him yesterday. Again, it's just they just find ways to win, Brian. Like it didn't even. It looked like the Rangers could have been in that game. It was, just want to go back and refresh my memory here. So that was another one that I kind of, talked about on the show, thinking it was a good spot for the Rangers. And I talked myself off, and I'm glad I did. Yankees end up winning the game 7-4. The Yankees have had an incredible knack for seventh inning on, having really, really good at-bats and getting it done. I referenced the last 2.5 weeks for myself. And 2 of those losses, I had a team that was plus 1.5 against the Yankees where I was in the lead or tied. Yeah. And they are just relentless at the end of the game. Great at-bats. Teams are bringing in relievers, which should be a good matchup for the pitcher. Obviously, you're going to bring in a lefty to get a lefty. And something I've noticed about the Yankees more than any other team, just absolutely relentless 1 through 9 with the at-bats they have. It's probably a big reason they're 25-11. They win again last night. How are you seeing Yankees Rangers here?
Yeah, if you take a look at what's been going on with the Yankees, this lineup's been incredible as of late. Out of the 9 guys who normally play, they're all ranking in the last 7 days anywhere from number 1, which is Cody Bellinger, all the way up to 102, which is Jose Caballero, who now has a full-time job as they sent the younger guy, Volpe, back to the minors. But everybody in the lineup is hitting well, except for the catcher, Austin Wells. And he's not there for offense anyway. So this team right now, you got to have a good reason to want to fade the Yankees. There is one thing that is somewhat concerning tonight for the Yankees is the bullpen usage. Yesterday, they really had to use that bullpen. Bednar, 26 pitches for the save. Cruz, 26 for the hold. Hill has gone back-to-back. Hedrick went 14. He's gone 2 of the last 3. So a lot of their good guys in the bullpen will have a hard time tonight. And so they need to get some innings out of the starter. And right now, that's the one thing with Will Warren is he's been very good. They've got 3 of the top 25 starting pitchers going over the last 14 days. But I much prefer Will Warren when he's at home than when he's on the road. You wouldn't think he's old enough now. He's 27 years old, so he's old enough now, so he shouldn't be. His differential shouldn't be that bad, but they are. And until they change, that's something to take a look at. But since they're playing at home today, I expect a good effort out of them. The Texas team, I was with you. I kind of thought with the situation with the starting pitcher going back to DeGrom, going back to New York, but he really wasn't very good. And the only good thing is because Texas has didn't hit yesterday or didn't do well yesterday, their entire bench is looking pretty good. The pitching, Tyler Alexander threw 27 pitches. But other than him, you got Latch, you got Junius, you got Wynn. None of them have pitched in the last 4 days. So they can get away with possibly having Eovaldi not being at his best here and have a healthy bullpen in there. But right now, it's really tough to go against these Yankees hitters. They're hot as hell. They're playing at home. They're playing with a lot of confidence. I don't like to lay a $2 favorite, but if you can find some other way to play the Yankees here, maybe some other hitters props, something to that effect, that's probably not a bad thing to do because they're not going to cover off the ball right now.
Yeah, you talked about Will Warren at home. He's made 5 of his 7 starts of coming Yankee Stadium this year, and he's got 5 or more strikeouts in all 5 of those. The last 2, he's been exceptional. 11 strikeouts against the Orioles. 11 strikeouts against the Royals, 9 strikeouts against the Orioles. He's actually had 6 or more strikeouts in 5 of his 7 starts, getting a lot of swing and miss. This is a guy that he was at AAA for a while. He was not really rushed through. You always see these guys. If you want to watch a lot of AAA ball, you'll see certain guys, and it's usually dictated on the need of the big club, right? Like I'm sure in a perfect world, Brian, they'd love to give everyone a year at AAA, right? To like face guys that because of course AAA baseball is a mixture of prospects that are like on the cusp of being in the league, and then like journeymen, 40-man roster guys. They've been to the big leagues. They're not quite good enough to stick around in Major League Baseball, but they're good pros, and they're going to go and give you a professional at bat. So, Will Warren had the luxury of being at AAA for a year and having sort of time to work on things. I even think he kind of got to come back down and do it again. Not because he wasn't really good enough, but because the Yankees have that kind of depth in their organization. And like this time around, it looks like he's fully figured it out. I always thought he had flashes of it, but this looks like the year where he's put it all together. Probably the reason that they had a couple of chances to trade him. They didn't. I think what you're seeing is like what he's been building toward, and maybe a strikeout over. He's been racking up the strikeouts, in this ballpark, and especially across the last 3 or 4 starts, has had 6 in every single one. I haven't looked at what the total strikeouts is here, but his stuff's looked really good. I mean, 6 or 7 is not out of the question.
Yeah, my projection was 6.5, so it all depends on what the number is.
But to your point, I'm not dying to bet against the Yankees right now either. I see a couple people in the chat say, "Hey, it's a big number on the Rangers." Yeah, I mean, if I look at just my straight up number and where the value is, it's absolutely on the Rangers. There's no question about that. The question is, do you want to take that shot at this point? For me, it's got to be something Yankees correlated or pass right here. They're just playing too good right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's here's one. We didn't talk about this game on the show yesterday. I referenced it in the video that I did, and then it got rained out. So it was probably another reason that I didn't have any MLB action yesterday, because I did have half of mine, Brian, to come back with the Brewers. I liked them I bet them on Monday. Sorry, forgetting what day it is. I bet them on Monday. They fell short, but they got a couple guys back, and one of those guys they got back, Jackson Churio, had one of the best games of his career. Not only did he look good coming back, Brian, he had 4 hits and 4 at-bats and a walk. For a Brewers lineup I feel like is kind of needed that. Andrew Vaughn didn't have the best game, but still you slot him in the 6th or 7th hole. It's a pretty nice upgrade for a lineup that once they start to hit, I kind of feel like this Brewers team is going to vault themselves into the conversation of the better teams in the National League. So Brewers as maybe an underdog here. I've liked Sproat this year. What do you, I know you've liked the Cardinals. So Brewers Cardinals, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah. Who would think on on May 6th, he's got a 1,000 batting average on the season. Yeah, he did really well yesterday, and everybody made sure to notice it. It is one game. Don't overreact. But yeah, that was a nice setup for Milwaukee, and with the utility guy, the DH out of the lineup, he may be the best bat in that lineup right now. So he's fresh, and that's something you like. As long as he's healthy, that should help. Palante is going for St. Louis. Sprout, as you mentioned, for Milwaukee. We're looking at basically St. Louis is about a 110 favorite. It's close to a pick 'em here with a total of 8. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Milwaukee goes on a run here. I'm not as high on Sprout as you are, but Palante is a guy who has been able to get by this year. He's not a guy that I wanted to search out and find, but he's been getting the job done. St. Louis continues to find ways to win, and I like this matchup. I like both of the way I expect to be on both of these teams a lot in the next week or two. But in this one, I'm just not seeing value either way in order to play it. We're looking at a total of 8. I could possibly see the over here. Milwaukee's got that ability to be able to run. St. Louis obviously likes to run. I like teams that don't need the power bat to succeed. And this looks like a good matchup for that. Slight lean to the over here, but the line is pretty much where I expected it to be.
Jason Lambert says, well, you just talked me into the Brew Crew. Mike S says Brew Crew gets the W this afternoon. It's the only way I could kind of play it. Brandon Sproat will probably benefit from when he eventually gets sent back to Nashville and gets like a month down there with those pitching coaches. I think had it not been for injury that was probably coming for him, Woodruff goes on the IL. So like Logan Henderson was taking someone's spot because he's been awesome down in AAA. But like every time it comes up to, have a spot be taken, someone goes on the IL. And this most recent one was Jake Woodruff back on the IL. Now, to Sproat's defense, these numbers, 6.75 ERA and a 1.61 whip, are probably a little bit unlucky. His expected ERA is a 1.5 lower than that. Now, you could say, well, a 1.5 lower is still over 5. Yeah, it is. That's true. And so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But this is a guy that, former second-round pick for the Mets. I always felt like he was going to end up in the Mets rotation at some point. He obviously got passed by the likes of like a Nolan McLean, a Christian Scott. They know they have Jonah Tong. So it's like the Mets saw the pitching depth in their organization, but they gave the Brewers someone with plentiful upside, Brian. And you know what the Brewers do with those types of guys. It typically works out. And so for me, I do think Sproat maybe needed some time at AAA. But if we're just talking about this matchup, listen, Palante, he's a good veteran, Swiss Army knife type guy. The Cardinals, I feel like they can do wherever they need him. He almost always does well, but he's not someone that's overly dominant. And the Brewers in 15 starts he's got 15 starts against the Brewers. He has over a 5 ERA. So this lineup has seen him enough. Man, I'm waiting for this Brewers breakout. We need Tokyo Brandon to come on here and talk crap about them like last year. Because he was like, oh, this team's done. And then the Brewers won like 15 straight games. So that's what that's what maybe when he's back, we can get him to do that because I still think this is one of the best teams in the National League.
I was looking at how the hitters have been doing, and both teams have a lot of hot hitters right now at the top of the order. And since I'm not enamored with either one of these pitchers, maybe play one of those first inning type of bets, a Yurfie.
Yeah.
On this one. Makes a lot of sense to me. Obviously, it's early in the morning. I don't know if they even put those lines out as of yet. But, if it's anywhere near where it has some value, that's the way I would look at this one.
Listen, Brian, I know it's one game, but like to put Jackson Chourio back in the top of this order is very, very notable. I mean, just from the respect he's going to garner from opposing teams, and having good at-bats, that's something that the Brewers haven't had enough of so far this year. And it makes everything go because you can get a couple base runners. This team's as good as anyone at going first to third, at running the bases. If they can get the guys on base, they're probably going to start scoring some runs. And you would have to think Churio and Vaughn being back help their cause in that regard. All right, let's head back to the chat. Let's see, where do we want to go here? It's full slate today. Got some day games. All right. Here's people want to know what's wrong with Bryan Wu. I actually think that that's a fair point after, we talked about his most recent start. It was against the Royals. You actually like the Royals and you cashed for the Royals in that game. That was one, I believe that was last Friday where you and I were actually a rare head-to-head. I like the Mariners, you like the Royals, and you won that battle. And it was, Bryan Wu coming out 4 spot in the first inning. And I had said, hey, don't worry about him. Everyone's due a bad start. Everyone's going to have a bad start sometimes. Of course, he got rocked the start prior to that. But then he comes out and gives up a 4 spot to the Royals. So I guess the question is fair. What's his deal at this point? And how are you looking Mariners Braves this afternoon?
Yeah, Atlanta made a pitching change. They're now going with Martin Perez, which is the lefty, which I think is a positive for Atlanta. Not that he's a great pitcher or anything, but he's a lefty, and Seattle has not hit lefties so far this season. All of the Seattle starters have had their struggles compared to what they normally do. It's going to happen. You run through that through the entire season, and it's usually 1 or 2 guys at a time. Well, for the most part, none of them have been great lately. So they've got some guys that have been good. Obviously, Hancock has been terrific, but other than that, the guys that they've come to expect have been a little bit higher. I believe I saw somewhere where their collective ERA at home is one full run higher than normally is. Small sample sizes, but I still like Bryan Wu. He hasn't looked as impressive this year as he has in the past. We've talked about the Braves bats. We're getting Wu right here at about a 130 favorite and a total of 8. I think there's a little bit of value here on Atlanta. As much as I like Bryan Wu, Seattle's hitting versus lefties has me concerned, and there may be a little bit of value here on playing it in the full game. You're getting Atlanta in the 115 to 120 range. Let's take a look at here. If you do it in the first half, maybe that'll expand a little bit. No, it doesn't seem to. You're getting about a 115 to 120 here with Atlanta. So Atlanta does have their closer back. He came in last night and he got the save, and the previous closer got the win. So that's the way Atlanta likes to see it. I like the Braves. I don't know if I'll get there until I get probably at least another 5 or 10 cents here with the Braves. Best I'm seeing out there right now is 125 at one place here in Vegas. If I could get a 125 across the board, then I would be interested in Atlanta, but just leaning that way right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically, we've talked about this game now. This is the 3rd day in a row that we've talked about this game on the show. And pretty much I feel the same way. The Braves are too big of an underdog here. They have been all series, and of course, if you've played that out to this point, you're up money because even with the loss on yesterday, you probably caught at any point in time, maybe 125, 130. I don't know exactly what the best number out there was, but if you played the Braves as a dog in both games of series so far, you're ahead. And I think that kind of illustrates my point where it's like, even with the Mariners being at home and maybe this, having a couple of favorable spots, I thought Monday was actually a very favorable spot for the Mariners with the Braves coming from altitude, coming from Colorado. They ended up winning that game, but that was a game the Braves led 4-0 in. And as we sort of highlighted, had J.P. Crawford not hit that 2-run bomb with 2 outs, I think it was like the 6th inning. I don't know that the Mariners win that game, and then the Braves win a close one yesterday. So I still feel the same way here. It's 2 really good teams. I see some of the merit in backing the Mariners, but I'm never going to be able to get there with the price like this. The whole time I felt like this series should have been closer to like -110, -105 each way, -110 each way. Even after 2 games and after another Braves win yesterday, you're still catching plus money with. Listen, there is no question the Braves have been the better team to this point in the season. I am one of the people on the other side that's like, well, the Mariners are still going to be pretty good, but let's not get anything confused. The Braves are the clear better team to this point in the year. Probably shouldn't be as big of an underdog as they are here. All right, let's someone says, like Trigger says, we're not here to make friends. I want to be friends with you guys. That's not, I may have said that though at some point in time. But yeah, we are here to beat the books. That's what we're trying to do every day. Brian and I, we show up 6 days a week, win or lose. We're trying to grind out winners. If you want to join us in our journey to do that, we've got great specials on the website. The double play, you can get all of my picks and Brian's picks for a 3-day stretch. And we also have good long-term packages. The month right now, I believe, is probably the best value out there because it's a big discount and we're throwing in 10 extra days. So I think it's 40 days and it's a discounted rate. So check that out if you are so inclined. But if you're just here for the free stuff, we're going to have that too. Brian and I will have a couple picks out by the end of this show for the parlay. But first, let's head back to the chat. Let's see. I'm going to just, again, I kind of roll random through the chat. So I'm just going to grab one at random. Actually, we a lot of people have asked about the same games, which we have hit so far today. So I'm going to go with the first one that I see. All right, let's go. Let's go with one of the night games. Give the show a little shelf life here. The Cubbies. Again, this is another team, Brian, that I think if you want to talk about, okay, so the Yankees are having probably the best at-bats 1 through 9 in the American League. I think you could put the Cubs up there, at least over the last couple weeks, of a team that's just having tremendous at-bats 1 through 9 in their lineup in the National League. They have totally turned around a little bit of a slow start. They're now 24-12. And if they're going to find a way to win games like last night, 3-2, they're going to win a lot of games this year. That was the kind of the knock on them last week. How are they going to win close games? What are they going to do with the bullpen? Well, the bullpen got a little healthy, and tough moment for the Reds last night. It looks like Emilio Pagan either pulled a hamstring or that's the type of injury. That's like the Cody Ponce, I'm done for the year type look. He was in a lot of pain, and that might be the first domino to fall for the lucky Reds. So Cubs, Reds to you. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, you mentioned the luck factor, and we've been trying to play into that. And we haven't really had too many places to have success in that regard. But now Tampa Bay has passed up the Reds as the luckiest team in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Tampa gets the win yesterday. If you go back and look at the stats, they probably didn't deserve it. But, hey, that's the way Tampa Bay plays. We talked about that, and they've been getting those victories. Yeah, that loss for Pagan really hurts them because they really had nobody to take his place. He hasn't had a lot of success. He blew the save on Monday, throws one pitch yesterday, clearly hurts himself. For a guy that has him on my main fantasy team, that hurt, and I also have Scooble, so it's been a rough week for my fantasy team. Yeah, nobody cares about that.
You might be a seller at the deadline if that keeps up.
That's right. Yeah, you anybody who makes a trade with me, these guys are going to be out of the league for a while. I'll keep you updated on that if you're superstitious. But the Pagan situation. But Santillan has pitched 2 of the last 3 days. Ashcraft threw 28 pitches on Monday. Connor Phillips threw 28 pitches yesterday. They're in a real bind in this bullpen right now, and that did not help at all yesterday. From a starting pitcher standpoint, Brady Singer, you could say, has been disappointing this year. Other than Lauder, who did not pitch well his last couple times out, he's starting to fade a little bit. But Singer hasn't gotten really hot all year. He's a guy I didn't think was going to be a good fit in the Cincinnati. He's a fly ball pitcher, but as we've talked about the last couple of years, they've done something different there, and they've recognized something. Maybe they're not throwing as many fastballs at home, something to that effect that would result in more fly balls. But he's had pretty good success until now. And they've already brought up Chase Petty because of injuries, and he was okay. We'll see how it goes. But, this is a team right now hurting pitching-wise, and so you need their hitters to hit. And they've got a few guys that that have been hitting pretty well. But overall, your key guys in the lineup. Dela Cruz is at 270. Sal Stewart's at 354. So they've got some of the guys that they really count on have not been hitting well. McLean's 370. And Brian Hayes hasn't hit in years, but he's at 279. So you got a team that's not hitting well and a team that doesn't have a lot of a bullpen. So I don't want to play Cincinnati here. When you take a look at the Cubs, you mentioned it. The offense has been very solid overall. They got Ballesteros and Dansby Swanson hasn't hit well, but for the most part, they've been a really good team. When you got Pete Croce Armstrong and Dansby Swanson that far down in the lineup, that's pretty impressive. They're good 1 through 9. This is one of those few teams that is. We talked about this yesterday and the day before. From a bullpen standpoint, they brought back Palencia. He threw 15 pitches yesterday. Don't know if they'll use him back-to-back, but he did come off on Sunday, so maybe he has that ability. So I think the bullpen works out a little bit better for the Cubs here. The starting pitcher works out a little bit better for them, and the hitters work out better for them. Now, am I willing to lay the 165 to 180 with Rhea on the mound? I'm not sure, but I want to be on Chicago some way in this game. I believe the winds are blowing in today. In fact, I know they are because the total is at 8. So need to find a way to fade the Cincinnati lineup here. Maybe Cincinnati team total under, something to that effect. But something I'll keep my eye on the rest of the day to see if I can come up with a play in this series.
I was going to ask you about that as our resident weatherman here on Total Bases. I saw the 8. I said, all right, yeah, that is probably typical. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. If the wind is blowing out at Wrigley, the total's double digits. So like when you see an 8, you kind of know it's blowing in, but I was trying to play weatherman myself. And I'm like, I don't think the wind is terrible there today, at least based on what I could see. So I have this at, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I've got this at 8.4. And, even with a little bit of wind blowing in here, I think you start to add everything up. Okay, the Reds are going to have to figure out what they're going to do at the back end of the game. You talked about Palencia having pitched the last couple games. Singer has been awful. Right now where Brady Singer is at on the year, I don't know that going to Wrigley and facing the Cubs is exactly what I want to be doing if I'm Brady Singer. Like that could be like not the best case scenario for him. And, I like Colin Rhea. As I think I've been pretty pro Colin Rhea ever since he came back to the States. He still gives hits up. I mean, 6 or more hits in his last 3 starts. It's not like the Reds can't do anything against him. I guess what I'm trying to say is, and the reason I'm going to lean into this is the area that I've kind of been hot on this show. I keep coming on here and giving out total winners. I should be playing them for my clients. I've never considered myself much of a total is better, but yesterday we had the Phillies over. We've had like every Rays under for the past week. This one felt about a half run light to me. I could kind of see this one going over.
Yeah, winds are blowing left to right. It is decently sunny there. They're expecting 18% less runs, which would be like 1.5 from a normal game. But that's what you get when you're at Wrigley Field. It's called the Windy City for a reason. So it's either blowing out or it's blowing in. And I would much rather see Singer pitching when it's blowing in. It would not surprise me. I don't keep track of the minor league starters for Cincinnati as they're doing this year, but it would not surprise me if they either put him in the bullpen or they bring somebody else to start. He needs to have a good start here. Is that putting pressure on him? Who knows? But he may look a little bit better because it looks like a lower run scoring environment here in Wrigley than we've seen in some recent games.
All right. We even with the little swoon over the last week, we had built up a nice cushion with the parlay. So we're still slightly above. We're right around even after the couple of losses we've had over the last week. Still slightly ahead, 0.3 units. So my question to you, we still got about 15 minutes left on the show, but do you have an idea of where you want to go with your leg today? Do you want to throw out a game that we haven't talked about yet?
I will throw one out now. Since it's been a little bit of a struggle for me. I don't like to give out many favorites, so I'm going to lose. I'd rather lose 1 unit as opposed to 1.5 or whatever. So I'm going to stick with an underdog here. And I'm going to go with the Athletics with Jeffrey Springs on the road against Philadelphia with Wheeler. First of all, Springs is a lefty, and he's been pitching pretty well. He's been on a pretty good run for a while. He's a lefty. Philadelphia doesn't hit lefties very well. That's a big differential for Philly. They struggle against lefties. But it's also a way for me to fade Zach Wheeler, coming back from serious surgery. He pitched better than what I thought in the first time out, but his velocity was down a little bit. It wasn't down terribly, but it was a run or two, a mile per hour or two. I think the Athletics will be able to get to him here. He's got to invent himself as a different pitcher. And it's, even though he's a veteran, like if this was a young guy that came back, I'd be all over Springs in this regard. But I've got to give Wheeler some credit for being a veteran. He knows how to pitch when he's not 100%. But Philadelphia yesterday finally had the breakout game. I was out to dinner with Marco D'Angelo last night, and he was talking about Philadelphia. And I said, this is the first game they've actually looked like a better team. They've obviously, we've talked about this for a while, that they've made the coaching change right before they played some lesser teams. From a standpoint in this game, let's take a look at the two teams, what's available tonight. The Athletics, since they were not in that game from the start, they've got all their better players. Jack Perkins is their current closer for this week. He hasn't pitched in the last 5 days. Hogan Harris hasn't pitched in 3 days. Kunal hasn't pitched in 2. So they're set up in the bullpen pretty well. And Springs has been a guy on the season. He's ranked at 57th over at Roster Resorts for the pitching. He hasn't done the 124 the last 2 weeks. So he has taken a little step back, but not a terrible step back. And he's a guy that seems to always have a little bit of value on him. He's not going to go long. He'll probably give you 5 innings. But with the bullpen set up here, I like the Athletics. And for Philadelphia, their hitters have been hitting pretty well. Trey Turner still struggling a little bit out of the top of the lineup, but the hitters are playing well. It's nice to see Bryson Stott come around. That was a guy that I really liked coming into the season. Now he's gotten regular at-bats at second base, and it's starting to pay off. So they're a lot better team when they can go a little bit deeper in that lineup. But the bottom of the lineup with Crawford, Baum, and Stott had not really played well this year. In fact, one step above them, Real Muto hasn't really had a good offensive year. So it's very important for Philadelphia to get that bottom of the order to hit. Duran just came back from the IL and pitched. He threw 27 pitches yesterday. I really doubt they bring him in tonight. Keller Alvarado pitched on Monday. They should be available. But I like the situation here for the starter for the Oakland A's or Sacramento A's or Vegas A's, whichever you prefer, or the Athletics. And the price is right. So I'm going to take them here. We're looking at anywhere from plus 140 to 156. There's a lot of 150s out there. Let's go plus 150 at the Athletics with the lefty on the mound, plus 150 against Philadelphia. Philadelphia may be feeling really good about themselves right now, and I don't think they're that good yet.
Brian, I think it's a company. I think it's like a marketing sort of do you know the company? It's like Las Vegas, and they do all the tourism stuff. Did you notice that the A's? Did you notice that the A's? That's their sponsor, so like they can have Vegas on their uniform. Yeah. It's like on the patch. It's just like it's that logo. It's just like another way for the A's to like slight Sacramento. Although I do think they did roll out a Sacramento jersey that's an alternate that they're going to wear at some point this year. They just simply do not want to acknowledge that is their new home. It's been going on since last year. It's just this weird that they haven't embraced it. It's like those are good baseball fans. They show up for River Cats games. Don't know why you didn't embrace the fans like for the major league games. It's neither here nor there. Point is, though, I'm going to agree with you on the A's. I'd love another 10 to 15 cents here to get A's plus 1.5. But from a value standpoint, this line is crazy. Like, I get that the Phillies are playing winning ball all of a sudden, but on what planet did like this little 6-1 run justify the Phillies being like $1.80 favorite? This is Wheeler getting priced like Wheeler pre-injury,
right?
Which he's not. So, like, the other thing I want to point out here, Jeffrey Springs left his last start early with hip soreness, and from everything I've read, it was just more of like he didn't probably have his best stuff. There was just no reason to push him any further. So I don't think that should factor in at all here. Sounds to me like he's totally good to go. And actually, because he had been pitching so well, because he had been pitching deep into games, he only threw 67 pitches his last time out. So it's almost like, I think that sets up nicely for him here. He's like a veteran enough where, like, if he really had an issue going on, I don't think he would run it back. I think he would, be smart enough to not go out there with like an injury that was going to get worse. And per his words and everything I could find, Springs said he's totally good to go. I tend to believe a guy like him. And like you said, the Phillies, outside of those veteran guys, this is not a good lineup. And all of those veterans are lefties, right? They're gonna have a harder time against lefties. Harper, Schwarber, they're going to have they should have a harder time against left-handed pitching. I know Schwarber had the dream year where he had like 1,000 OPS against lefties, but I would say, like, who would you rather have against the Phillies? A good lefty or a good righty? I think you'd rather have the good left-handed pitcher. So I'm with you, Brian. I think you found some good value right there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 67 pitches last time out. He's averaged 81 his last three. There's guys in the league that average a lot less than that. And Miles Mikolas, as a matter of fact, 63 his last three. He's just an innings eater, trying to get him out of there as fast as possible. But yeah, the A's are a better team than what this line suggests.
Yeah, and listen, with Wheeler trying to get his feel back a little bit, if he's too much in the zone here, you don't want to be like too in the zone against the A's, because they're swinging at everything and they're going to put the bat on the ball. We've seen that so often this year. So yeah, I can't really disagree with you on that one. And like I said, I'll be trying to get in with the +1.5 if I get the number, which I highly doubt will be the case. But that is what I will be looking for. All right, I am going to go to I'm going to go to a different game for the parlay. I do have a 4% play locked in if that's what interests you. I'm not going to give that one out on the show because it's already up. I do like the Brewers, but I want to go someplace different for the parlay here. So let's go to South Beach. Let's go Orioles Marlins. There's a couple of people asking about this game in the chat, and I like the Marlins. I haven't bet this yet for clients, but I really do think that when I look at these two teams next to each other, I don't know if it's because I listened to 4 minutes of Mike Bordick just trash the Orioles yesterday, basically so Mike Bordick, obviously longtime major leaguer, I believe he played. Did he play his whole career in Baltimore? He played a lot of it in Baltimore, if I remember correctly. Got to go back to like the 90s here. Middle infielder. But the point is, I think it was him that just sort of went off on one of the radio shows about everything that was wrong with this Orioles team. And, a lot of it, I guess there's merit. I think, Brian, when you look at like the farm system for the Orioles, like a couple years ago, you expected this team to be like winning divisions at this point when they had all these guys in the system at once. Two of them are actually over in Miami now. Obviously, Kyle Stowers, Connor Norby over in Miami. So again, you look at the Orioles 16-20. I go back to the beginning of the season thinking that they were probably a little bit overrated this year. I go back to like our conversations with, their bullpen's pitching good, but I'm like, this really isn't a great collection of relievers. It's just like both of these teams are 16-20. To me, the Marlins are like the far better of these two teams. Like, if there's a team that's going to finish above 500 and it's these two, in my opinion, it's going to be the Marlins. And what the Marlins did earlier this week was basically put everyone on notice and say, yo, we're way better than this. Okay. Chris Paddock, see ya. You're gone. where that means Robbie Snelling's coming. That means Braxton Garrett's probably coming. Augusto Ramirez, you can't hit. Goodbye. Joe Mack comes up. He's a much better catcher, improves you, improves your defensive catching situation. I'm watching these moves. I know it's, you got Peter Bendix and that organization pulling the strings. I feel like they have a great beat on like what's going to win. So like all of this stuff is making me like the Marlins going forward. And I kind of want to buy in with them. They lose a heartbreaker last night where they come back and then drop it late. They've now lost 3 games in a row, but like, of course, 2 days ago was a 1-0 loss on a Bryce Harper solo home run. They just couldn't get the timely hit. I'm going to try to buy the Marlins before they get hot and before they go on their run. I think that starts here. I've always liked Yuri Perez. I do like Brandon Young as well, but like, to me, they're at worst case scenario, they're equals. I even maybe give the nod to Perez a little bit on those two head to head. So when I add all that up at the current price, Marlins is good enough. I think they win this game.
You're talking about Baltimore being underperforming this year, and it's been the starting pitching. I was somewhat excited about their starting pitching coming into the season. Trevor Rogers was coming off of that terrific second breakout season a year ago. Now he's sick. He's not in the rotation right now. Zach Eflin was a guy coming back from injury that I was excited about. He got hurt again. So he's out. And Dean Kramer is a guy that they bounced around with, but he's got a strained quad right now. So you got Kyle Bradish, who is one of the people that a lot of experts thought was going to have a huge breakout year this year. He's done nothing. He's been bad. Shane Baz. Hey, we're getting Shane Baz from Tampa. They know they develop their pitchers very well. Shane Baz has done nothing. They signed Chris Bassett. Brandon Young, who you hyped up last week, got bombed. Cade Povich.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah. Cade Povich, who is one of those guys that, like the rest of their young players, that have not proven themselves in the major leagues, and he's a quad A player at this point. So, and then they've had their closer from last year had the Tommy John surgery, and Garcia looking really good. If it wasn't for Garcia out there, that he's been a very, very good surprise. He's been the 13th best pitcher in baseball this year. He's finally got the role of the closer at this point. But yeah, you can look at their entire lineup and their entire team, and it'd be hard to find somebody that you trust. They've got some really good hitters in this lineup, and Henderson, Ward, Rushman's had a nice bounce back that we've expected. Alonso, gone to a new team. I always say they get off to a slow start, but they got some good batters in this lineup, at least in the top half. The bottom half overperformed early, and now they're struggling. So it's only one way for me to look in that game as well. And you talked about the catcher that went down to the minors because he couldn't catch defensively. Well, they decided he's going to continue to catch in the minors. I don't know if 2-3 weeks, a month, 2 months is going to make him a better defensive catcher. So we'll have to see. But Miami's got a lot of guys in the minors right now that are better than what Baltimore has up in the majors.
Yeah, Joe Mack has one of the fastest pop times in ever recorded. That's so pop time, if you don't know what that is, it's basically how quickly the catcher gets the ball to second base, right? I think that's the definition, or how quickly it's the time that from when they receive the ball to get it out to second. He's got one of the fastest recorded in the history of the game. And, that is, so if you can't tell me that him being up there based on what they had catching doesn't like vastly improve that team. They were giving runs away defensively because they couldn't control the run game, couldn't throw base runners out. And now you've improved there. David, I want to address this because I don't care if the Marlins make the playoffs, nor do I think they are, nor does it even matter to me. What I'm looking at right here, I'm looking at the Marlins, I'm looking at the Orioles, I'm looking at two teams that the books sort of are telling you are similar, and I'm telling you they're not similar. That's really what it comes down to. I think the Marlins are superior. I think Yuri Perez is an actual big league starter. I think Brandon Young is a 4A starter, like Brian said. He runs hot at Norfolk. He can come on a given day and give you an okay start. But what does he do here at best? 5 innings? Maybe he survives for 5, and then you're still getting 4 innings of the Orioles bullpen that I find to be pretty overrated at this point. So, yeah, I'll jump in here with the Marlins. And what are you seeing for a number on that game for me, Brian?
Looking at anywhere from 124 to 135.
We'll call it minus 130.
Yeah.
I think you could probably find a 125 out there. Call it minus 130. I was kind of hoping the Orioles would take some money throughout the day. Like if I could get that one down like 120 or better, that may end up on the client card. But yeah, again, they've lost 3 straight. My gut says they're gonna play their way to 500 or better. Whereas I think the Orioles I think this is what the Orioles are. I think the Orioles are somewhere between a 70 and an 80 win team this year. I don't think they're going to factor in anything. And for whatever reason, the books, I feel like treat the Orioles as they're like better than they are. I felt like this all season. And I think you're seeing that again with them on the road here. So yeah, I like the Marlins here.
Yeah, a lot of the teams that have these great minor leaguers, keep in mind, minor leaguers don't work out very often. So you see a bunch of them together. Cleveland's had that in the past. There's a lot of teams that have all these minor leaguers. They're so excited to get them up there. Check out their rate. Like a team like Milwaukee, when they promote a minor leaguer, usually they have success. Tampa Bay, similar to that rate. But there's other teams that they bring them up, or somehow they overrate them in the minors. I guess I don't know what the deal is.
It's very, very interesting. It's actually probably one of the more fascinating things as someone that watches just so much AAA baseball. It's so fascinating to me how, and every team is different. Every situation is different. I find it super interesting that the Nationals, one of the new ownership came in and basically said, you're putting the wrong guys in the majors, right? Like we need to do an overhaul and get the right guys in the majors, and then put the guys that some of the guys you have up here need to like stay and play a year of minor league baseball. Dylan Cruz, even Harry Ford, who a lot of people thought was like going to be a big leaguer and was just sitting behind Cal Raleigh. He gets to Washington and they're like, no. You need more time down at AAA. The Cubs, I think, have always been really good at like really being conservative with calling guys up. And then when they do call them up, they tend to have some success. So it's very, very interesting. Brian, we could do another hour on that. We don't have time to do that. We got to close the show down. Kelly Stewart does not want to hear us talk about, organizational depth for the next hour. We've got another show coming up here in 10 minutes. So we'll close the show on that note. We have a 2-teamer for today. Brian is going to go A's. Nice plus price right there. You guys are always looking for dogs. There's your dog today. The A's plus 150. I'll go with Marlins minus 130. That is our 2-teamer for today. If you want all the plays, I got a 4%er in Major League Baseball. I took a night off last night, so I feel refreshed coming back into today. I think we've got a nice win. That one goes a little bit later today. You can get that and everything Brian and I play on the double play package, which is up now on both of our pages. Check that out. And the two of us will be back here at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for more Total Basis. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you guys tomorrow.